Greetings, science fiction and fantasy enthusiasts. Do you read books? Do you watch films? Do you hate deodorant? Then welcome to our podcast. You're listening to No Deodorant in Outer Space with Ryan Sean O'Reilly. Now, let's get started.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of No Deodorant in Outer Space. My name is Ryan Sean O'Reilly, and I will be directing you on yet another voyage as we sail across the cosmos to discuss the film adaptation of the Screwfly solution. This is the second part of our podcast in discussing we'd already discussed the short story by Raccoona Sheldon, aka Al Sheldon, aka James Tiptree Jr., and now we're going to get into the film adaptation, which was directed by Joe Dante and made for an anthology TV series called Masters of Horror. It starred Jason Priestley. Joining me once again is Amanda Andros.
Hi, how are you?
Pretty good. Get you a little bit louder.
Oh.
There we go.
Aaron.
And also Erika Doyle.
Hola. Hello.
Hola.
Hola colores.
Hola colores. Oh yeah, I forgot. You, remind me at the end of the podcast, you can plug your website.
No.
Yeah,
you bet.
We got to do that. Or why don't you say, what's your website? I'll put it on the other one too at the end.
I don't remember.
I'm
sorry. It's okay to let you down here.
We'll just say both Amanda and Erika are writers.
Yes.
You guys both write
Yep.
fiction. Amanda, you write...
I'm a playwright.
Playwright.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any stuff online yet, or you're still working on it?
Not yet. I'm
So it's to come.
It's to come. I'm working on producing my work.
Okay.
So, and redrafting. So yeah, soon.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
And you're doing stuff here in the city in Chicago.
Yes.
For that.
With Chicago dramatists and
Cool.
writing. Yeah.
And Erika, you write fiction as well. And you've had some stuff published online and stuff like that.
Yes, short stories.
Under your name, Erika Doyle? Or your maiden name?
My maiden name and my...
What's your maiden name?
Buchanko.
Can you spell that?
Buchancow.
Okay.
And then, under Doyle too.
And under Doyle too.
Poetry as well, and short stories.
And you're a painter.
I paint. You've seen that, right?
Is that your painting behind you?
It is, yeah.
I'll take a picture of that right now.
It's very nice.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Thank you for the promotion. It's on Etsy.
You have an Etsy website?
Yeah, I don't remember the Etsy web. It's holacolores-Etsy and something else.
I'll put a link on the website.
I have an Hola Colores Facebook page.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I'm here with two writers, artists, and we're going to discuss this film version. That's, a little bit more about you guys. Why don't we go around the horn and give our opening impressions on this film? So I'll start it off again. My impression was this is a creepy adaptation of a science fiction horror tale, which manages to focus and update the storyline while remaining still faithful to the original narrative. So that was my impression. What about you, Erika? We'll go to you next.
It was really a lot of blood. And there's a priest killing babies in what is in the hospital. Mm-hmm. And slashing throats, and then a lot of blood. It was kind of funny, and the acting was terrible. So that's what I can capture.
Okay, that's good.
Bad acting.
That's good. All right, what about you, Amanda? Your summary of your impressions.
Yes, the adaptation of the book was extremely graphic. Mm-hmm. The sound effects were disturbing with the snapping and just the overall gore of it all. And there were subtle differences in the storyline, but overall it was extremely horrifying, but also a bit low budget in its representation.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that. I mean,
no.
The story, or the story, of course, was written by Al Sheldon, like I said, but it was directed by Joe Dante. So I'll give a little background and bio on Joe Dante. He was born November 28th, 1946. He's still alive today as of the date of this recording. I listened to a bunch of podcast interviews about him. I read the Wikipedia entry about him. I think he's a huge lover of film, of classic Hollywood. He seems a little bit nostalgic about it when he talks about it and how things have changed. There was a story that he told in one of his interviews about when everyone just had black and white TVs and stuff. And like, I think Disney was coming on with their new program. And I think he was suffering from polio at the time. He was very young. And he remembers being carried across the street to like watch the Disney program. So he was, so into like films and stuff. And I also think I read that he has a lot of the props from his films like stored in his garage and stuff. Regarding his early life, he was born in Jersey. His father was a professional golfer. He had some aspirations for being a cartoonist, although it didn't seem like he really pursued that too much. That might have got him out west, but it didn't seem like he did anything of real note for as far as that's concerned. He was a student of Roger Corman. Roger Corman is a very famous director because he's famous for making low-budget films. I think when drive-in films were popular is when he was really popular. And he served a real important purpose in the filming industry because he would take on these young directors and let them just make films. Often he would do it for a very, very cheap budget. Like he made Grand Theft Auto with Ron Howard and... I think Ron Howard starred in that, and then he might have directed a film for Roger Corman as well.
The Looney House is coming.
The Looney House is coming.
Yes.
If you go on Wikipedia and look up Roger Corman, there's a lot of famous directors that have worked for him. I'll go through the notes while we're talking to see if anything else comes to mind. But Dante made one of his early films, or maybe the first film he made for Roger Corman, was called Movie Orgy. And this movie, he had such a low budget that they had to go find stock footage from other movies and make that the movie that they were going to make. And so what they would do is they hired actors and actresses and they would dress them up in the costumes from these movies that were already shot and then film stuff with them and then splice in all these other movies. And that way they were able to do a really cheap movie. The big one I think he got noticed for was this Piranha. I think that starred Kevin McCarthy, who was also famous for being in Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which we covered in a previous episode of the podcast. So Piranha was supposed to be almost like a parody of Jaws, because Jaws had been real big. The studios noticed Piranha came out, and there was talk about suing them for doing this, but apparently Steven Spielberg saw it and said, hey, this is a parody. It doesn't compete with Jaws. It's fine. It's no big deal.
Right.
That eventually led to Steven Spielberg working with Joe Dante, and that helped his career a lot. Before he ended up working with Spielberg, though, he also managed to work on Rock and Roll High School, if you ever heard of that film, which starred the Ramones.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a Roger Corman film. I think he produced it.
Oh, cool.
And I don't think they were going to originally use the Ramones, but they eventually settled on the Ramones. It became like a cult classic.
Yeah.
After working for Corman, and Corman, I just remember there was like an interview with Ron Howard. I think I heard a couple directors say this. They'd be working for this Roger Corman, and they'd be trying to make this film, and they'd be like, we're out of money, but we need like a little bit more money, Mr. Corman, to make this scene work. And Corman would be like, well, you're not getting it. You just have to finish the film and make it work. He had this quote where he told directors, look, you only got to make, this one movie for me. And then after that, you'll probably never work for me again. Because basically, if they were successful, that they would get poached by the studios and go work on bigger stuff. Mm-hmm. So he really was like a mentor to all these like directors that became famous later. Uh-huh. Dante's famous for making a werewolf movie called The Howling, which I think had like 6 sequels. Howling 2, 3, 4, 5. And that was actually based on a book. He also worked on episodes of Police Squad. And he also worked on the Twilight Zone movie. He made one segment of it. I guess there was different segments in that. He had some stories about that because there was like a tragic accident. I think someone died or was injured during the filming of that. But what he's most noted for is making Gremlins. So if you ever see
Gremlins, yeah.
So he made Gremlins 1 and Gremlins 2. He also made Inner Space. Yep. Which Spielberg was the executive producer on. And he made a movie called The Explorers. And he made The Burbs, which starred Tom Hanks. Yep. I remember loving all those movies growing up.
Yes.
The Explorers, and your husband, Erika, John, was saying he loved The Explorers too. And it was interesting because he told the story that when he was working on The Explorers, that the studio changed management and the new management didn't care about the movie. And they're like, okay, you're done. And he wasn't finished editing it. And they're like, no, you're done. Just finish it. The movie has kind of got like a cult following, but he always, when he sees that movie, he sees an unfinished movie because the studio wouldn't let him finish it because the management changed. But those are all movies I remember watching growing up. He also made Matinee, which is like an homage to B movies and the showman who made them. And he worked on a TV series called Erie, Indiana. And he worked on a movie called The Phantom. And he worked on a Looney Tunes movie called Back in Action, which I think was not successful.
Yeah, really prolific.
Yeah, he was.
What what were his active years? The 90s, I'm assuming.
Piranha came out in 78. Howling came out in 81. Explorers was 85.
Yeah,
Inner
the 80s,
Space,
I'm sorry, yeah.
87. The Burbs was 99.
The Gremlins were Gremlins when in
Gremlins
the 80s,
were
right?
the early 80s.
Yeah. Gremlins 2 was in 1990.
Yeah.
Early 90s, yeah.
Yeah. So by then, he was more like 80s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He has since, like I said, he had this real nostalgia for like old Hollywood. So he created a website called Trailers from Hell. And it's a web series where he takes old trailers and he invites other directors to comment on the trailers. So he'll invite a director to come on, and I haven't watched any of them, but he'll invite a director to come on and say, and they'll say like, these are my 5 favorite movies. And they'll play the trailers, put them together, and then talk about them. And he does this because he says like, there's so much media out there now. You got like Netflix, you got Amazon, you got all these ways to get stuff that no one knows what is good or not. Like how do you discern what to look for?
Right.
So he created this website to sort of do that, to expose people to other stuff.
Cool. Yeah.
He made a film called Splatter starring Corey Feldman, who was in The Explorers.
Yeah.
And I guess it was the first online streaming movie that Netflix did. They did it as an experiment to try out the streaming service. And it was kind of an innovative thing, although I don't think it was real successful. It looked kind of low budget when I saw part of it. And so what they did is, it was like a murder mystery, and they filmed like all these different endings, and they would show you like a couple minutes of the film, and then the audience would vote who's going to die. And then based on what the audience voted, they would show the next segment. So within 3 weeks they had,
that's quite
they had 30
interactive.
minutes.
That's cool.
So
yeah.
That's brilliant.
I think it's still on whatever the audience voted on. That result is on there. I think originally they voted so you could they made it so you could have like different viewing experience every time, but that doesn't exist. There's like a 30-minute version that exists on Netflix called Splatter.
Yeah.
So that's it. There's a lot of interviews. He's on a lot of podcasts. If you want to know about him, he's really into film and film history. Very interesting guy. And those are some very awesome movies that I remember loving when I was growing up. And he had his work with Spielberg on some of those movies, like Gremlins and Inner Space and stuff. And so I recommend checking out those movies. I kind of want to go back and watch The Howling. I don't remember if I saw The Howling, but I remember seeing one of those movies. There's 7 of them. I think it was Howling 5 I saw.
They sound familiar.
Yeah. I think they were just like scary, and I saw it when I was younger.
Yeah,
I don't know what I think of it now. Yeah. They're just werewolf movies. That's Joe Dante. I don't know if there's anything else you guys know about him.
No.
Yeah, to be honest, I watched the film in kind of in last minute, right? I was not aware. Although the main actor who plays Alan,
Jason Priestley.
Yes,
he seemed like someone famous, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh, well, we were just talking about that, but before we started,
I've seen him in other movies.
Jason Priestley is he's
pretty well known.
Well, Amanda, why don't you explain? Did we say where he was from?
We talked about him a bit. Well, he's Canadian.
Okay.
He's from Canada. However, in the 90s, he was a huge heartthrob actor on Beverly Hills 90210. He's very handsome.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
his
the one,
his face is extremely recognizable because of that series.
He ring a bell. I mean,
right. He's done a couple of Lifetime movies. His career hasn't been as successful, I think, as it was back in when he was on Beverly Hills 90210. But he was the it guy for a bit.
I see.
People knew him, and he's a big hockey player. He played on MTV.
He's from Canada.
He's Canadian. He's that heartthrob. But he's recognizable if you knew him from that series. Know who
very
he
recognizable.
is.
And then the actress who played Anne, she had was she British? Australian?
Seems like
some
she
accent there.
She had a different accent.
I
think it might have
recognize
been
her.
filmed in Canada. I don't know.
The Canadian production.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it didn't sound like she was from there.
Yeah, I didn't know who she was.
No.
Yeah, she wasn't.
Real quick, Corman, who I was telling you about, some famous directors that worked for him. One of them was Francis Ford Coppola.
Wow, yeah.
Ron Howard,
I like
I
his
said.
wine.
Yeah.
Yes, Coppola.
And Ron Howard, and also Martin Scorsese,
Oh, another guy.
and
another
James Cameron.
big time directors. Yeah.
And he also launched the acting careers of Peter Fonda, Jack Nicholson, Dennis Hopper, Bruce Dern, Sylvester Stallone,
Wow.
and William Shatner.
Yes.
Wow.
Wow, I never knew that about. Why is it that we haven't heard more about
Corman?
him?
he's definitely known in film circles.
Okay.
It's because a lot of his movies were like B movies.
That's why.
And they're kind of.
Well,
he had a style. He had a definite style that people appreciate now.
Okay.
But it's like he would just churn out movies and get them in these drive-ins.
Okay.
And so he would, he could make them cheap and quick. And it wasn't really appreciated as much as it is now.
Okay.
So if you look him up, he's an interesting guy too.
Yeah.
But so Dante worked under him, and that's how he got some of his. That's how he got his start. Mm-hmm. All right. I mean, is there anything else you guys have to add about Dante, or we can just move into the film itself?
To be honest, I don't know much. You did a good job doing that because
with his background.
All right. Good.
Yeah.
The movie is not that much different than the story. It is different. It's interesting because like we talked about, the story is told in mostly letter format and articles. So the screenwriter, had to adapt it into more of a narrative style.
Right.
Had to write things out a lot more from these letters. I felt like the story had less international elements, although they did sort of update it and bring in like conflicts with the Middle East.
Sure. And
treatment of women in the Middle East, and they kind of tried to bring that in to sort of update it.
Right.
Another thing is there was like, you mentioned this, Amanda, but I mean, there was ecological components. I felt like they were more in the film than they were in the book, because you had that character who was a consolidation of Dr. Faye became this Bella.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, right. They changed the names around.
Yeah, and she became one of their friends.
Yes,
as opposed to just in the military report.
Right.
And she started being like, "Oh, you guys are messing with nature, and bad things are going to happen," and sort of like that. That was kind of different.
She was in favor of wiping out humanity.
Yes. Yeah. They were kind of joking, like, you'd rather wipe out humanity than the bugs.
Who played the character of Barney?
Yeah,
Barney.
Elliot Gould.
That's
was the
Elliot
actor.
Gould.
Yeah.
I recognized him. Yeah,
he's famous.
He's famous. Yeah.
Another thing they talked about was, as a solution to the problem, was chemical castration or actual castration of men, which I don't think that's mentioned in the story at all.
No,
that's not mentioned.
They started rounding up the men, and they were watching porno at one point. And
to like test them.
Yeah.
I like all the nudity there. There were some scenes.
There was nudity and cursing.
There was like some scenes that I kind of got into it. Especially I watched that at nighttime, next to my husband.
Next to your husband? Okay.
There was some momentum. No? She has a nice figure. I'm like,
nice figure? The actress?
I'm like, she does a lot of Pilates or something.
You got a good shot in one of those scenes.
One of her
posterior. Yeah.
I'm like, whoa.
It reminded me, this was filmed in like the mid-2000s. It kind of reminded me of almost like an 80s movie. And I guess this guy's from the 80s.
Right.
It had that feel to it.
Yeah.
Like, the sex and violence.
The whole thing, if I wouldn't listen to the audio, it looked like I was watching one of those cheap novellas. I mean, telenovelas or like soap operas.
Oh, yeah.
How do you call that? While you're doing your toenails in a salon, they have that in the background in a TV next to the fish tank.
It was grainy. It was a grainy film. The production was grainy for sure. Yeah.
It was a television show, but not made for network television. It was made for Showtime, so it was made for cable.
Yeah,
but it's an anthology series like The Twilight Zone.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it had a lower budget.
Yeah, episodes.
And it's just meant to be one episode of others. Now, it is interesting. There was a guy. Director, or what's his name? I got it here. Director Mick Garris, who I'm not familiar with. He used to invite a bunch of other famous like horror directors, like John Carpenter, Guillermo del Toro, Stuart Gordon, who we covered on this podcast, and Joe Dante. He'd have dinner with all these people, and they'd talk about their favorite films and stuff. And I guess through these dinner conversations, it evolved like, let's make a TV show. And that's how this Masters of Horror got created. They did one season of 13 episodes, and then I think the next year they released a second season, and that's it. So they're all available on Amazon for you to watch. It's not a full film. There's not a huge film budget probably for this. I don't know what the budget was, but you definitely feel that.
Yeah.
They got Jason Priestley but he's not like Johnny Depp or something right now.
No.
I guess I felt like
What's going on with his life now?
Jason Priestley. I don't know what he's doing now
No. Obscurity.
because
this was
more than 10 years ago itself.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys felt, but I felt like the acting.
It was clipped. I describe it as clipped.
Yeah, it was kind of clipped.
It was staged and just
from the beginning. Even the guy that was like the neighbor. It started with a scene with a neighbor,
which was in the story,
wiping out blood.
Do you remember that was a news article in the story?
Right.
Yeah.
Anne talks about this. There's an article about a guy who said he had to kill his family because he was cleaning up
because he's heard some voice from the Lord or whatever.
Angel again.
So they show that whole scene.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I felt like all the male remarks about women that are meant to be sexist and meant to be misogynistic, they just felt so over the top.
Even the workers in a corner, remember?
Yeah, there's like construction workers.
They were over the top.
Yeah, the whole like grabbing of the crotch and
I to be honest, I laughed so hard.
That scene was funny.
I watched it again, and I laughed too. I was like, it's supposed to be misogynistic. It's supposed to be horrible, but it's so over the top. It just seems ridiculous.
Well, it scared me when he came back to the car when the construction worker approached. I'm like,
that was creepy.
Gosh, what's gonna happen here? That part kind of alarmed me because I didn't know what he was going to do.
What was disturbing was maybe because I'm a mother or whatever, but it was disturbing that to see the image of the father groping his own daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was disturbing, really graphic,
Joe Dante, I think, is known for having, he does these horror films, but he's also known for putting humor in them. Like, I think there's humor in The Burbs, Inner Space, and Gremlins.
Yes, yeah.
In some reviews about this, I saw people say that this didn't really have humor in it. Although I think we're all talking about laughing at parts of it.
So, yes.
So it's almost like there was like unintentional humor because it seemed like he did focus more or tried to focus more on the horror and not give comic relief.
It turned a little campish.
Yeah,
at some moments. Yeah. But no, there were some horrible parts too.
Yeah, like the part you just mentioned, Erika, and
I mean the disturbing part as well is the one on the strip club too.
Well, the slashing of the women and
that was so graphic.
Not to mention, like that same scene later, you realize the horror of things. The priest, but then like when the guy says, watch where you're going, bitch, and he's in a convertible and he throws like some kind of a big gulp on top of the windshield and then he backs up, but he runs over these women.
Did he?
He ran over the women later in the scene.
I missed that because when he did that, I laughed when he said that.
The girl,
watch where you're going, bitch.
But
I was like,
that part was scary.
In the plane.
Oh yeah, that's when he has the dream about killing his.
But these other passengers, they they
lose it.
They
break someone's neck.
No, the steward, the airline steward, snaps this woman's neck because she won't stop screaming.
Yeah.
She's like,
but that was after someone else was already killed.
Someone was killed because the guy was waiting for the bathroom, and he's like, "Bitch took too long," and he murdered her.
It's just
it was just too much, and that part was campy. But the neck snap was disturbing. But like, no, that scene where like you see the horror on the girl's face, like, Mom, did you just see what happened when they backed up the convertible and he just rammed those women and just sped away?
I missed that.
That was a horrible part. The campiness was rubbed out by that part.
Yeah.
So there were moments in the movie, like the hospital scene with the babies and the blood and the guy who's supposed to be the priest who's slashing all the invalid women inside the hospital.
Yeah. And the strippers when he's like, he breaks a bottle and stabs her. It's like total slasher film like that. Yeah. Like very bloody and gory like you were saying. And also, I mean, the scene, I thought the best, I think they got the scene with the mayor the most right. It was the creepiest scene. Like that one didn't feel cheesy. It felt disturbing, like it should.
Even the encounter of this prisoner who played Bella, right?
Oh yeah,
right.
That was scary.
He tried to grab her.
Yeah.
Through the bars.
Yeah, and he's like, I don't have to answer you.
Yeah, that was creepy. Yeah, intense a bit.
But then you hear the muffled screams. The mayor goes in the other room and you hear her muffled screams while the soldiers looking out the window at
That's right in the book. That's right in the story.
It's in there. And the men were singing a religious hymn.
Amazing Grace.
Amazing Grace. And you hear her muffled cries, and the horror of the situation of that scene is immense. Yeah.
And the mayor comes out like kind of just like
bloodied and disheveled.
He's like, and he's acting real weird, and he's like, I did this for your benefit, and he's all covered in blood, and it's very disturbing.
And that's when it comes to light mostly. That's the moment I think comes to light that we're talking about a religious group, right? Because they have this pamphlet that said Satan and something like that.
Is it Satan or did it say God?
No,
Satan.
Satan something.
Maybe
pamphlets.
Like a warning against Satan.
Yeah.
And they juxtapose that against the Middle Eastern conflict.
Yes.
Because they're like, in the beginning, they're like, oh, the treatment of women in the Middle East. But then they're like, oh, look what's happening here domestically.
There's even a sign, like a billboard sign.
Yep.
With a woman dressed kind of like a burqa. Or something like that. That's what I've seen.
Yeah.
Or like there's actually a woman in the billboard sign on the road. But it's like someone
graffitied it. Or,
a burqa.
Yeah.
They drew over the woman with a burqa. Yeah, it's like that. Like that was them. I feel like trying to update the story,
right,
and make it more relevant to what was going on at the time. So it kind of adds like more political component to it, but it's not really overly political beyond that,
right? No.
Yeah.
Then of course the scene where just the plane scene, the hospital scene, the scene where the hunters. She goes into the general store, right? She's at the general
disguised
store
as a man.
Up in Canada,
right?
Disguised as a man. Then she sees the boob purse. Remember the boob purse? That was like, what is this now? Because it was so fake looking, and you're like,
and she just looks at the shopkeeper, and he looks back at her.
He's like, what are you gonna do about it? He's looking back at her like, yeah, it's a boob purse. What's your problem?
That was
that was sick, but it was. The prop was bad. It didn't look like a boob. It looked like claymation.
It looked like something you get like Spencer's Gifts.
Exactly. And so at that moment, they register that she was noticing the boob.
Yeah.
And then that's when the chase starts, when the hunters start hunting her down.
They also show that they do two scenes with the hunters in the general store. In the one, there's a kid. In the second one, there's not. So they're implying
kid's gone.
Now they're killing kids.
It's sodomized and killed. Something like that. Yeah, I feel like maybe the kid was raped or because he had tender skin or something. It reminded them of a woman. It's a stretch. But that's what I thought happened to that kid, that he could have been...
Well, she said in the story that the kids eventually were killed after the women, that they were killing kids, too.
Yeah, I don't know what happened but there was something very sinister about it, obviously.
You kind of hear them talk in the background, like, you had to do that because of they start talking about religious things. Yeah, they talked about the parable of, like, what is it, Isaac and Abraham? That got mentioned in the background while she's talking to the shopkeeper. Yeah.
I can't get the TV reception. The old man's like, I can't get the picture, And then you get that comedic, like, campiness again in the general store, and one per customer with the fish hooks, and you should have thought of that over the winter, and, that part was facetious. But there were some serious moments, too. It was interesting.
Does Barney come to a different end in the film? Like,
Barney perishes with her out in the wilderness. I don't remember that in the book.
No.
I think she's corresponding with him at the book, but I felt like he was gone long.
He dies eventually, right? She buries him, there were stones.
Yeah, she does like a cairn or whatever.
There was no scene with the hospital.
Right. That
they didn't go to the hospital. Was the hospital there with her? Where Barney sneaks her in the hospital. I think it's
implied that he helps her, though, right?
Yeah, but they don't show all that. That was an embellishment in the film.
Yeah.
And then you see the sadistic Catholic priest slashing all the women. Yeah. That wasn't in the book either. There was a little bit of that
almost seemed like a cheap Hollywood film, or a cheap Halloween film.
Yeah. It was like...
guy in a priest outfit.
Disturbing. But it was like, he was like...
It's gory.
It's gory. Yeah. And the priest was so young. He looked 16, like a young priest. And you see him like saying prayers. Felt like it was just very bizarre. and it was violent. The nursery part really shook me. Like, oh, just bloody baby receptacles that you put the newborn babies in. And they didn't show the babies. You just realize the horror of the situation.
Yeah. Kind of like the story, Sheldon, she had a few images, like the corpses in the rivers and stuff.
Yep.
But she didn't always get like right close to the violence. A lot of it was more alluded to. She did have visceral elements. She had an interesting balance because she was like kind of just showing you just enough violence that you knew what was going on,
really effective,
but she didn't drag you through it.
Yeah.
She gave you enough to really think about it, but it was definitely not needless violence.
Yeah,
like
the film version was very in your face.
Yeah,
like
a lot
it was,
more.
hey, this is graphic and this is added. We added more gratuitous violence in the film version that was not in the book.
I think the director was a fan of the story and had read it when he was younger and liked it. I don't know if he must have picked it for this anthology.
Yeah.
I do feel like the scene where they are in the, the strip club, kind of forced, like overly done, you know? The two young men going there, and the scene happens so quickly that you cannot even understand, what's going on here,
slash,
you know? You cannot even digest that whole scene. It's like, okay, I don't get it.
I mean, in some ways,
I
thought that they did a good job of adapting something that was written in letter format into a visual format, because that's not super easy. But, you know, it still, felt quick.
I don't know if it delivered really, because...
Yeah.
It was hard to watch. It was weird because I thought, part of me was like, wouldn't the guy with the shotgun have popped up sooner? Like, if you knew the women were being brutalized.
How about the guy sitting in front of the stripper and he's got barbed wire wrapped around his hand like he's like torturing himself? I'm like,
why
would they let that guy just sit there with like a bloody napkin?
Opus Dei element. It was very odd, The torture
and
with
then
the
the bartender just waiting so long until they...
To shoot the perpetrators.
Why don't you do that before anything happens?
And then after he shoots the guy, then the army guy starts killing people.
Exactly.
There's like 2 acts of violence.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there were 2, and then it was like, why didn't you jump up sooner with the shotgun? Yeah. So that part to me was a bit, the timing
over the top.
Was over the top.
Yeah.
Not much closure there.
There wasn't closure. The women, they were hobbling off the stage. They were in satin gowns, and then they both got slashed.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, okay.
I mean, that scene is there that's the soldier's story to Bella.
Yeah.
The scientist, like, he's like, that's what happened. She's researching that murder, right?
Right.
Like, what caused it.
Yeah.
And she's the one who's trying to say there's like a biological problem.
And it was in a flashback scene that was happening,
Yeah, and she's like doing a report on it.
Yep.
And she's thinking it's not just these religious cults, there's something else going on. And I guess Barney's working on that too. She's talking to Barney about it.
Mm. And I don't know, it was weird because there was an impression that she and Barney were married, but then Barney seemed to be gay.
Yeah.
So that was a bit like...
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Well, he made a comment, right? He said that the men I'm attracted to are much younger or whatever.
Yes.
And so it seemed like, he was gay. But in the beginning, it did seem like he was with her. Or
did in a way in the house scene.
Yeah.
Where they're walking out together and there's quippy lines like
I guess they're just supposed to be old friends or something.
I think that's revealed when they're talking about the castration thing.
Yeah.
Right.
You understand that, he's homosexual.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But did he take the castration medicine? He said he did take it.
I think he did, yeah.
But Alan doesn't take it.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. Is that believable? He knows all this stuff is going on, and then
it's not, though. It's not to me.
That he's gonna not, because he's with Barney telling the government we have to do this, but then he doesn't do it himself.
And then wouldn't you want to do that to like be with your daughter?
Yeah, and he's about to go see his family.
Exactly.
But he's like, nah, I'm not gonna take it.
Yeah.
And that's not plausible to me.
No.
Yeah. a hole there a bit.
How about in the story? No, that doesn't happen in the story.
Right, it's not.
No, it doesn't.
It's not in the story.
They don't talk about any kind of like castration solution.
Yeah.
They don't even talk about a solution in the story,
No,
right?
they don't. No.
She is so dark, Alice Sheldon.
Yeah.
There isn't like
hope for anything.
There was no attempt for a vaccination or to stave off the disease through injections or immunizations.
Yeah.
None of that was in the book.
They're basically like, most people don't even know what's going on. A couple people do, but it's too late.
Yeah.
A couple people figure it out, but it doesn't even matter.
Mm-hmm.
That's so dark. What did you guys think of the aliens at the end? Because I heard another podcast talking about them, and they reminded me. I thought they were really cool looking. They're very ethereal looking, very airy, you know. And they noted in this other podcast that was talking about the film and the book. It's called what was that podcast called? Mirror. I'll put a link into it maybe. But they talk about how the aliens look almost like female. They had long hair.
They did look female.
They look like very
willowy females.
Yeah,
tall, beautiful hair.
And that's not in the original story. There's no. They're mentioned as angels, but they don't. She doesn't identify their sex.
They look very feminine,
yes.
Absolutely.
In the film, the film depiction.
They're kind of like in a woman kind of
form. The form. There's even almost breasts in the
long
light
hair
formation. You can see breasts and curves. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a lot more. I don't think this happened in the story because in the film, Anne is fleeing the hunters, which does happen in the story. But then she's like fleeing them all the way to the point where she sees the aliens, and the aliens they don't quite save her purposely, but the aliens kill off the hunters.
Right.
Which doesn't happen in the story.
No. And did they track her at the end in the story? The hunters tracking her?
I don't remember
that.
I think she gave them the slip.
Okay. And they didn't find her.
I don't think they found her. I think she was, but she knew she was going to die. She's just like, I'm on the wilderness.
She surrendered herself at the end in the book, eventually, to this, that she was going to die. But, like, then a wish, she said make a wish.
Oh,
and then in the pupil, it was her husband.
Was it?
Yeah, there was a scene where, like, in her eye.
Yes. I don't remember what they showed, but
it was
her
like
husband?
her and her husband kissing or something, and it was
okay.
like, make a wish. To me, that was
with the comments.
Yes,
there were two scenes with the comments.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So astrology involved here.
Right.
Another element.
Like a shooting star.
The shooting star. That was not in the book.
Because the daughter in the beginning sees this shooting star and then they tell her make a wish. And she does. And then all of a sudden.
in the book?
No.
No, right?
No.
And when she makes the wish, the star changes direction. And it's no longer falling to the sky. It's going down, 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 and she makes the wish, and then it like goes to the side.
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Oh darn, my wish won't work now."
Yeah, I remember.
And they're just like, "Oh well, it depends on what you wish for." And I'm like, "Wait, what the?
What is that?" Yeah, like what?
What star changes direction mid sky? I get it. We're supposed to know. Okay, that was the aliens. But I was like,
they were messing with the stars, magnetic poles. Yeah, but that part was a bit corny to me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, make a wish.
Yeah.
Your family's gone.
And then at the end, she makes a wish. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like.
And another thing I was thinking of is I don't think I cared for the music. I felt like that made it cheesier.
Oh.
I don't know if they were using like strings or keyboards or something.
Yeah.
But it was just like.
It's bad. Yeah.
There was a lot of music over all of it, which I think kind of killed some of the tension because there was so much music. And it just added to the cheesy factor and the campy factor.
Yes.
I don't think it had a real great soundtrack.
It was a quesadilla.
A what?
A quesadilla.
A quesadilla.
Quesadilla. It was like, that music diffused the tension. You're right, the tension and the gravities of the scene. It was too corny.
And then every time there was like a family scene, they had like cheesy like family music, like come on, like melodramatic.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it is a violent story, and they showed the violence, but it just somehow undercut the violence. It somehow didn't make it real.
And then there were some funny, like we were talking about, there were funny scenes that probably weren't meant to be funny.
Yeah.
But just the way they did, like, the props and the blood and, like, the overemphasis, like, stupid bitch and suck this. You know, it was like, okay, come on. You're just diluting the tragedy that's going on here. The boob purse.
The boob
You know,
purse.
like, come on.
The boob purse.
Can you make it look more like a boob, like more realistic?
Well, and the fact that I think that was just like laying there, like in the open.
On the counter.
Like, it wasn't. What
was in that purse?
We never saw.
Condoms?
Maybe.
Or was there? Could you see what was in it?
See, I thought that it was weird. He had a boob purse. Was he touching the boob to get, like, women's, like, oh, I have my woman next to me, a piece of my woman? That part was weird.
It would have been
like,
it would have been better if the
It
boob
had
purse.
stitches, right? Like
Ryan, what about the boob purse? It's just stitches. Like, what?
I think it would have been better if the boob purse was like half hidden and she just like noticed it.
yeah.
But it was
Yeah, it was sitting on the counter.
You know, it will have been more effective if they had 2 purses of those.
Two
pair of
boob
boobs?
purses.
One is
pair
kind of
boobs.
bizarre.
You know what would have been more Silence of the Lambs is if he put the boobs on him and he was molesting them.
Yeah.
That would
Oh
have
my
been
God.
like, this is horrible.
But they would have done it cheesy.
They
if
would have
did.
been not like, oh, this is not like Silence of the Lambs creepy. This is like,
No,
can't be creepy, you know?
It would have been like those construction worker when he lifted up his shirt at the
Woo!
women.
Yeah, like
horribly
New
fat.
Orleans kind of thing.
Yeah, like, hey, baby. Like, no.
Throw me some, what is it? Whatever, the beans.
Like, if you think of Thelma and Louise and the truck driver, he's more sinister. It's campy, but he's sinister. He's nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Could you have made it more, like, creepy? And it wasn't even in the book. It was, they had to add to the film version, I guess, like the TV version.
Yeah.
But those parts were like, okay, what's really going on here?
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of taken away a little bit from that. Yeah.
It felt more stylized. It just felt less real the way they did it.
Like, you know, when you see Motel Hell or like those cult 70s horror classics like Chainsaw Massacre or Deliverance, the fake Cujo, you know, you see the fake like special effects and it's just like, oh my gosh.
Those are like,
They're fun.
they're from their time too a little bit.
Yes.
This is like 2005.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
They
it
made
was
this movie in 2005.
Yeah, but
Wow.
it doesn't feel like it when you watch it. You feel older.
Like, I
No.
do feel it's from the 80s.
So do I.
Or early
There's a style-
90s.
Yes.
I mean, this director's from then.
That's
So-
there's a style there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That you can feel that. Like 91 or almost
like
like
early
80, 90,
90s.
89-ish with the
Yeah.
grainy film.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you
that's
have like the sex element and the violence, like
Yes.
total like
And the music background thing with
Yeah.
the music, that's
total cable television movie.
Yep.
totally like we did a
movie.
Lifetime
Yeah.
production. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jason Priestley, you know, casting him was interesting. Because it's like, okay, now we really feel like it's the 90s because Jason Priestley's in this film.
I saw a quote from him that they put on Wikipedia. It was from like an interview, some Canadian newspaper, I think. That's why I think this is Canadian.
Yeah, Canadian production.
That he said he took the role because he thought it wasn't just like a one-note character, that the character had some dimension because he was struggling with the fact that, like, you know, he had the disease, he didn't want to hurt his family, you know.
I thought he was good. I thought his acting was it wasn't cheesy.
He wasn't cheesy.
He was
no.
not cheesy. He came off as very authentic in the film.
Yeah.
Elliot Gould was excellent as well in his portrayal. The rest of them were a bit amateurish.
What about Anne?
She was good.
I thought she did good.
She did a good performance. Yeah.
What did you think, Erika, of those actors, of the main actors, the three, or in Bella? Bella did a good job. I think.
The
I think
girl.
she did really well.
Yes.
Then the other actress who played Anne, okay, I wouldn't complain. Then the daughter who played
Amy.
Amy.
She was over the top, to be honest.
She was a little, yeah.
Yeah, it was hard.
Experience.
It's hard to believe her.
No. Yeah, she will come up with lines that are like,
what? Yeah.
Yeah, not credible at all.
Nope.
Yeah.
The way she delivered them.
What about the two men? The two main.
Barney.
Yeah.
I think he played more of a victim most of the time. He kind of annoyed me.
Yeah.
Like, okay. And then Alan,
Yeah.
he was like a sex symbol.
Of course. Yeah.
Always showing the chest.
Oh, yeah. And the whole, like, sex scene.
Like
with
a
the
Brad
bedroom.
Pitt kind of.
Yeah. It
style of the
chiseled.
movie.
Did you
very
think his
chiseled.
acting was good?
It was okay. I mean, he's the baby face of the movie.
I mean, he's not going to win an Emmy Award. Let's just say that. But he was believable.
And then those, those sensual scenes were overly the top. Like,
oh, gosh.
He will walk into the house and throw himself on the woman. And, I mean, I don't know. It's like there's no momentum building up on that. Like,
romance.
He comes from work, and I think before they go into to have a dinner with the rest of the family members, I think Barney arrives at the same time.
Yeah.
And Alan walks in, and he kind of like kisses Anne, like in a dramatic way.
Well, it's
out of context.
But isn't it supposed to be like he's been gone in another country? Like they're finally together.
We get that. That is like
he's returning.
It's just too pushy.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, we understand the guy has been gone for a long time, but I'm not saying that you need any room for stuff like that. I'm trying. I mean, I think in the film is trying to project what's in the story itself.
Exactly. Yeah.
But it's not. It doesn't work. I think.
It's just over the top.
It's just over the top.
Yeah. And then the scene where they're having sex in the bedroom and the girl's on her phone with her friend. She's like,
saying that
they're doing it. It's like
the daughter.
Like what? Who cares?
You know, at that moment, I asked my husband, "That's going to happen to us eventually."
Matilda and our girls.
My daughter. I'm like, we need a bigger house.
And
somehow.
then
we need to.
Like they're gonna hear it.
He's a master in audio. He has a background in audio, whatever engineering. I need to like cover my walls.
You need soundproofing.
And you need like cushioning for. Mom and Dad are doing it again. How you doing?
And the daughter's listening to music. She takes her headphones off so she can specifically hear her parents.
I mean, that will happen. Imagine in 10 years from now, Instagram and all that. My daughter can totally Instagram.
It's crazy. It's just like, and it was that part was like, okay, I think, and the porno shot when they're having sex. Let's talk about that, where you see her.
That wasn't bad.
No, it was a very erotic.
I just wish
scene.
they had mirrors around.
Well, no, you just see her like writhing. And you're like, we know you're having sex. There's no denying that scene.
Yeah.
That's a sex scene.
It didn't go on too long.
No, it was quick.
The mirrors were probably in the strip club scene.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah.
I found that that was sex that, hey, I've been away a long time and this is some good sex right here. So that was a believable scene with that. Yeah. Kind of, for sure. But, overall, the film strayed from the plot. It was not too far away, but there were some embellishments where you felt like, okay, the adaptation has to fill those gaps when we're making this film production. We have to add these things to maybe make the violence more believable or the graphicness
to be honest,
of it.
I wonder how it will work instead of trying. Well, they tried as a film.
Right.
It's a short story. How it would be translated into a play.
That would be interesting.
Right?
That would be very...
Transferring to a play.
You could do it a lot of different ways.
Absolutely.
A lot of different ways and just focusing on one
more
theme.
Character development.
Stripping that down. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's no plays based on this short story.
That would be interesting to know. Yeah. Because the set... You're not changing sets as much in plays. You're just kind of isolating it, and you're right, there is more character development because the characters' dialogues are developing in the play.
Absolutely.
So that's driving the scene more.
You could strip it down and do it like the podcast did it, and just have characters almost reading the letters.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, that would be interesting. I wonder if that would feel more personal because
I'm pitching an idea.
Do you want me to do a play adaptation?
Please, you're the next.
Oh wow! I have to.
You're the chosen one.
I'm the chosen one of the. There would not be any boob purses in my
you
play
have to,
adaptation.
Please. No, at least not one. At least two.
Yeah, well, we do.
We need the pair.
Two scenes of two plays.
Hey, if you have two purses of boobs, we need two purses of little. Where you keep your coins? What is it?
Change purse?
Oh, the change purse
of testicles. A pair of them.
That's not plausible.
You couldn't do that in this world.
No, we can't. Yeah. We can't write.
This is a men's world, after all.
Yeah.
Not in the story.
In the story.
In the story.
Yeah. So
that would be interesting. It would be
Maybe
interesting.
that's what the aliens are carrying around. The aliens are carrying around that at the end.
Testicles, samples.
After all the women are killed off.
Exactly.
they're playing marble balls with them.
But a play would be interesting of this story. It would be an interesting concept.
I almost feel like...
I'm giving you the right way then.
Yeah, you are. There's an interesting idea, for sure.
I almost feel like maybe the director tried to be too much like the story or the screenwriter or their collaboration. I know Joe Dante really respects writers, and he often tries to have the writer on set while he's making the film so he can consult with them.
Relationship.
But I almost think he should have taken more liberties. Like, I feel like because they tried to stay close to the story, they amplified the wrong parts.
Exactly.
Like the violence, like we're kind of laughing at some of the violence instead of the horror of it that you got when you read it.
Yeah.
And if he would have
it's not the same feeling.
Yeah.
And that plane scene was pretty horrible.
And it's interesting because, like I was saying in the last episode, the violence felt more horrific and awful reading these letters from these characters than it did in watching the violence in the film.
Yeah. I think when you think of violent films, violence can be campy in films.
Yeah.
You know, if you think of some of what Quentin Tarantino does.
Right.
Those special effects aren't perfect. They're a little over the top too. You know,
Kill Bill, I think he purposely tried to,
he did campy shots where he was using plastic props and, you know, things that were not as realistic maybe.
Yeah.
The props were not essential to him. What was essential was the storyline and the bride's revenge. It was still violent, but it wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is like over the horror of maybe her getting buried alive, the bride getting buried alive in a coffin, you know, things like that are scary. But when you do like a special effects that take away from that horror, that's when it can become kind of like distracting. You know what I mean? And that's what I think happened in this film as well, is it was a little... it was kind of over the top with the effects. Yeah.
You don't quite... At the end, you don't quite feel as freaked out when she's alone and she sees these aliens.
No, it's just like, oh, I want to make a wish, and there's only a couple matches in the box, but that's okay.
And then there's this scene that stay with me that these aliens will like what is it? They encrusted some sort of like
sample
brain,
the brain
of these two men that they kind of
the hunters.
They finished them up with some sort of like little fire, or they splash them with like a laser.
They kill them with a laser, and then they put some kind of tube on their forehead and suck their brain out.
Was it tequila shot glass?
They put a tequila shot glass on there.
Like a TV valve.
You know what they did? They were trying to
they're doing brain shots.
Sucking
They're doing brain shots.
It was a brain shot.
Instead of having a brain taco or tacos.
And then you're like, well, what are they going to do with the sample?
Yeah.
Are they going to this was the most aggressive of the species, so we're going to study this sample?
Well, do you think it relates to the Screwfly? I mean, this one podcast that I was listening to that talked about it, like, the parasites in the beginning of the story, the cane fly and the spruce bedworm. Yeah. Don't they talk about those parasites going to up people's noses and into their brains?
Yes.
Yeah.
So is it maybe like the aliens are checking on their weapon, to see what happened to the brains of the men?
Were there larvae in there?
Yeah.
What was it? The virus had spread.
That's got to be what it is.
They're collecting the sample.
Although, I mean, I don't know. Showing that, I guess, it was just like more visceral
quizzical
stuff.
It was quizzical because you're like, okay, what are they doing?
The aliens were really cool.
Yeah. They were cool. I thought they did that special effect great.
Yeah.
That was they were almost beautiful in the very crystalline way. Yeah, in the feminine form. It was almost like we've seen so much violence against women, but here's
like a relief.
Beautiful. Almost, they're in a beautiful angel-like form here, and that was very peaceful.
But then they go back to the character of Anne, and she has that last wish, and you kind of don't care.
This is just... It didn't matter at that point.
You know, to be honest, I felt when I saw these aliens in such a beautiful form, like Amanda is saying, I felt like maybe it will be a better world with aliens like that.
Yeah. Or we could have ended the film then.
Yeah.
We just end the film.
It kind of gives you hope, like, oh, after all, it wasn't all just
violence. Terrible
this violence
things.
is justified. We have better.
Does that go back to like what Alice Sheldon is saying in her stories that like
they were better off with aliens that take over?
Well, like her dark, hopeless tone, and maybe her frustration with her own life, is expressed in her stories.
Right.
And she's
the
just like,
part
look how messed up the world is, and it's better off without all this messed up stuff. And she took her own life.
Exactly. Let's just press the reset button in a beautiful way.
Yep.
Yeah.
And she has other stories like this. I mean, obviously, I remember there's other stories that kind of, I think a lot of her stories have these kind of themes, but she's got one I'm thinking of that I haven't read, but I've heard people talk about where these women are trying to get abducted by aliens because they're just like, we want to leave this planet because we think it sucks.
And people are signing up to go and fly to Mars and never come back, die there.
Yeah, pretty much. You know, that's a reality in here too, that the
Just
world's
buy a
gotten
one
so
ticket,
bad. Yeah.
One-way flight.
Yep. Exactly.
It's interesting because a lot of times when you talk about stories, you want the character to have agency. You want the character to be doing stuff. And I guess these characters do try to do stuff. In the end, Anne is trying to escape. But the way the story ends, it's like it doesn't matter.
No.
No matter what she does, she's doomed.
Pretty much. She's going to die. There's no question.
She's going to perish, obviously.
She
doesn't have many chances.
No.
Yeah.
There's
and
no
it's almost
supplies.
like it's understood that she might be the only woman left, the female in the planet. I don't know.
You know, it reminded me of Chris McCandless and Into the Wild. If you've ever seen that film and read that novel.
Yes. I haven't read the novel. I saw the film.
It's based on a true story. You just know you're done. You know, you're not going to survive the wilderness. You don't have enough supplies. It's hopeless. You just, at that point, you just make peace and just fade into the wilderness.
Unless you're Tom Hanks and Wilson.
Yeah, but this...
Castaway?
Castaway.
Yeah.
There's not enough food. There's not enough supplies. And that's the thing, is that it's like...
Or The Martian. The
Martian.
The guy survives.
What about The Life of Pi? I've seen that
Life of Pi?
Life of Pi.
Oh, Pi, sorry. I speak in Spanish.
Yeah, it's another survival. Okay. It's another survival story.
But that's what it reminded me of the hopelessness of being in this beautiful setting of the wild and knowing you're just not going to make it because you don't have enough resources and you're pretty done.
But it's not just the wild, right? Because the whole world is crashing down.
The whole world is crashing down, but in this end scene, it's kind of a beautiful setting.
She's taken herself away from...
She's taken away from that gratuitous violence.
Yeah.
She's in the wilderness, and there's peace there.
That's true.
That death, yeah. That's what it reminded me of.
I was left with the same kind of feeling that you're expressing here. Yeah, like, okay, well, this is not bad after all.
Yeah.
It almost reminds me of
an angelic
kind
of touch there.
They say, like, when an animal knows it's going to die, it, like, usually goes to, like, find a quiet place to go.
Yeah.
To be at peace, like, hide somewhere.
And she was in a cave. Like, there were rocks, and it was out in the pine trees, and... it seemed like, okay, I guess if you're going to go this way, go in beauty, and that kind of thing. And then the aliens, of course, were beautiful, and she was watching the light of the aliens, and that was nice, too. She was seeing that light and that
I just wish they had more colors to their lights. I mean, I come from Ola Colores.
Ola Colores.
Yes. Prevalent in the paintings. Yeah, the pastels.
Yeah, the aliens were not like your paintings.
No. Oh. They were very vivid. The light was extremely vivid, almost like snow, like white snow, driven whiteness of snow. Yeah.
Well, all right. I think we could probably wrap it up there. So I'll go around the room and we can all say our star ratings. I'll start us off. And I wonder if I'm going to change my original feelings on this. I am going to change it for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, man, this is tough because I really liked this director's older movies, which I can't just base it off that.
Right. Yeah.
Not fair.
No. All right, then I'm going to give pretty low rating for me. I'm going to say, I feel bad about this. I'm going to give 2.5 stars.
Yeah.
Out of what?
Out of 5.
Oh.
And I'm going to say...
Why always have an even number?
Well, I usually do because on Goodreads I'll post on there, and they don't even let you do half stars. I used to
no.
But I do halves.
Okay.
I don't do 0.93 like you do, Erika. So I'm gonna do 2.5 stars, and I'm gonna say it's interesting to check out. I always say interesting.
Right.
I'll say I liked checking it out, and I thought it was a challenging film because of the source material was based on letters, and it's got international reach in some aspects of it, not completely, but and to figure out how to put that all together, I think it took some ingenuity, and they put some effort into that. I think it would have been better, like I said, if they would have taken more risks in a different direction somehow, or like you guys said, a play would be interesting to do for this. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, I think the campiness of it sort of dated it in a weird way and took away from the actual horror that they were trying to portray, which didn't seem intentional. Yeah. Like a Quentin Tarantino movie, like you were saying, Amanda.
Yes.
It seemed unintentional.
Yeah.
I mean, boob purse.
I can't get over that.
So I'll say 2.5 stars. I recognize it's in the anthology format with some limitations there, but it struggles. Yes. It just really struggles. And as much as I like Joe Dante, that's what I'll say. All right, let's go next. Amanda?
Yeah, I'm going to give this one a 2.
Okay.
I really thought that it could have been better translated into a non-dilution of the horror. I think that when you have campy moments that are not supposed to be funny, that turn out to be funny with like maybe the script or a scenario or like special effects, it dilutes the meaning of the horror. So to me, that didn't translate too well. Mm-hmm. The scenes that were added kind of took away from the story a bit for me, the plot. So I'm going to give this one a 2. Okay. I'd say, yeah.
Erika, are you going to join the club or are you going to go rogue?
Go rogue.
I think I should stay in the 1.3.
I really hope Mr. Dante will never hear this broadcast. If he does,
yeah. What I can take from this is, okay, you have 2 elements. You have just the actual narrative, right? The literature itself brought by Sheldon. And then you have the film part,
yes,
right?
Yes.
So it's nice to compare and see those two.
It's interesting to see someone's take on it. Yeah.
They're completely 2 different kinds of animal, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Disciplines or whatever, even connected, but still you have to bring some imagination and put that together. I think he really tried his best. He tried to really stick to the writer's plot somehow.
Sure.
And respected and even reflected in the images. I mean, through letters. Mm-hmm. Even they weren't that super creative, or we don't like them that much, but it was effective or not. And I laughed throughout. I mean, it was humorous.
It was humorous.
It was just over the top. It was a good time.
Yes.
I didn't fall asleep. That's a good thing.
No.
It's only an hour long.
It's only 1 hour long. Yeah, and I mean the nudity wasn't bad.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah.
How many stars do you give the nudity?
Only 4.3.
Not the boob purse, just
4.2. Yeah, minus the boob with stitches.
Not the boob part.
Not
yeah,
that,
no.
Yeah.
The screenwriter was Sam Hamm, who he co-wrote the screenplay for Tim Burton's Batman and the story for Batman Returns.
Wait, which Batman though?
That was Tim Burton, like with the first one with
DeVito as the Penguin.
No, that's the third one, I think.
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
So the first one with Keaton, right?
Yeah, Michael Keaton, 89-ish.
And then and then Batman Returns, which had Catwoman.
Who's the villain in the first one in 89?
Joker, isn't it?
The Joker.
That's
Who was that?
Jack Nicholson.
Jack Nicholson.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, because there's some pretty grotesque props in that one.
Yeah, but that was Burton was directing, but
yeah,
the same. He had a co-writing. He was a co-writer.
The screenwriter. Yeah.
So I'm sorry. Did you have any more closing comments, Erika?
Let's see. Well, The cinematography wasn't the best.
It wasn't.
No.
The visuals kind of grotesque and morbid and too on your face. Gore.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I understand he was trying to mimic or reflect on the horror, but it didn't come up as horrific. Well, maybe yes, but in a comical way almost. Too overdone. There was not even a priest, I believe, in the book.
No.
I don't think so.
No.
The story.
There was a pamphlet by some priest or something that people were reading.
Okay.
But there was just a reference to a pamphlet.
There was no slasher priest, though.
No, I don't think so.
Priests killing people in hospitals. Yeah.
In a room, like, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anything else I can...
All right. I think we'll leave it there. So,
if I have anything else to say, once you put up all these with links and everything, I'll leave a comment.
Okay, that sounds good. And
Is
do you
that
want
valid?
to? And you don't remember your website, but you have Ola Colores is your painting website, which is on Etsy, and I'll put
let me
links on my
see,
website.
I have to go to that.
And you've also published under your maiden name and your married name,
Yeah.
which are.
Yes.
Why don't you give both those names again?
Okay, Erika Doyle is Erika or whatever your American accent.
Yes,
say
or
it,
Erika.
Doyle.
And then your maiden name.
Erika Buchanko. Buchanko. I don't know how to pronounce her accent, but
That's okay. Which,
But that's fine enough.
I mean,
yeah.
And Amanda, we're waiting for your
We're
play to come out.
it's in the works. It's probably going to be under AK Andros. That'll be my writer's name.
Oh.
So
Are you don't want to use a woman's
Exactly.
name? Oh, you're like
That's the point. So I don't want people to know what gender I am.
Oh.
And I think like J.D. Salinger or some of the literary
J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling. So most likely my name will be under AK Andros. But if people hear this podcast, obviously they'll know who I am.
You're outed.
I'm outed.
That's it.
But, hopefully, get something in the works. Art is art, and hopefully, maybe if someone likes it, it can be produced, which would be cool. So, yeah.
All right. And now the husbands are back. Oh, we can also say happy anniversary to Amanda.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was how many years now?
11.
11 years you've been married.
11 years, yeah.
Okay, so congratulations for that.
Thank you so much.
What a way to celebrate your anniversary, doing a podcast
signature.
with me.
Most def. Hello.
And John's here, John Doyle.
Oh.
But you've been on this podcast enough. Your wife gets to be on this one, so we're not going to get you on this recording. So we're signing off here. Please come to our website, nodeodorant.com, and visit us on iTunes and TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, YouTube, all the places you can find podcasts.
Hola Colores.
Hola Colores.
Most definitely.
All right, and with that, we will say good night, everyone.
Good night.
For more information on the topics discussed in this episode, or to read our show notes and find us on social media, visit nodeodorant.com. For more information on Ryan Sean O'Reilly and his various works of fiction, visit ryanseanoreilly.com. The theme music for this podcast was written by John Doyle from the band I Decline. You can visit him at i-decline.com. Voiceover for this podcast was provided by me, Margaret O'Reilly. Well, that concludes our episode. We hope you've learned a lot. Again, thanks for listening to our show. And always, always remember, there is no deodorant in outer space.
Hit the chord.
Hello.
Check. Check 1, 2. All right, Amanda, let me hear you.
Check. 1, 1, 1.
You're a little quiet. Let me.
You want to?
You can pull this closer to you.
Okay.
It can go under the. Yeah.
Check 1, 2, 3.
That's better, I think. Yeah.
Okay.
Erika, let's hear you.
Checks. That's what I want.
Checks mix.
Checks mix.
Oh, I'm a little loud. All right. Okay, so. Nah, it's not really that good.
People
Yeah,
outside.
there's people out there.
It's your neighbor.
Uh,
Oh.
Shut them up.
Or maybe